What's up, everyone? It's Whack. I welcome you to part 3 of uh, draft tutorials. In this part, we are going to be looking at how to build a team, at least with my philosophy in building, which, again, I do have, I think, 6 or 7 chips over the last 4 years. I guess maybe that's not a lot, but to be truthfully honest, I don't really play in a lot of leagues anymore. So I've slowed down a lot. However, this matchup is the team that we built not last week, but like a couple days ago when I uploaded the last part. The team under my team is the team that we put together for that draft, the mock draft, and the opponent's team is actually my team that I've last won chip with. Reason why I chose that team is because it has a little bit of like type overlap and like role overlap, and it's because it was half randomized. So actually both of my dark types and both of my grass types are overlapping, with Gallade being my not overlap mon for my randomization. And I even have 2 steel types, so one of the points that I've missed in my last video is about type overlap, and I do think sometimes type overlap is a good thing, sometimes it can be a bad thing if they do different things. However, Roaring Moon and King Gambit do different things. King Gambit and Stakataka do different things. I'd say Rotamo and Lurantis do similar things, but that was kind of out of my control. So, without further ado, when you're looking at a matchup, the first thing I look at is speed tiers. So as you can see here, Tornadus Therian is the fastest mon on the board, unless you count Booster Speed Roaring Moon or Scarfs on the other side, which my team, or my chip team, I'd say you can Scarf Rotom, you could Scarf Zoro, you can Scarf Moon, you could Scarf a lot of these guys. However, most teams will only bring like 1 Scarf, maybe 2 if they're going for like a very offensive build. And I'll talk about when you should go like very, very offensive and when you should go more defensive later, because I do have another example how to make the best of like a bad matchup. But right now we're on this matchup, and to be honest, I haven't really analyzed it too much because I wanted it to be a bit more authentic. I also want to make note that this was like low tier Terra. However, I only put Terra High Dragon here because I could make the argument that Terra Stakataka is just like really good anyways. But also because this has 2 Terras and this one only has 1 Terra, so I think putting High Dragon there on its own is fair enough to make it a fair-ish matchup. So the first thing I see here, again, is Torn is the fastest mon. So I'm going to slap it here for now. I'm not really going to put any moves on it just yet, but I do know that Torn does a couple things really well in this matchup. It's a decent special attacker that's fast and everything else. It also gets poison coverage for Florges if it needs to do that. Bleakwind Storm hits everything decently hard. It also gets like super power for the 2 dark types as well as the steel type before it evolves, or it could do, not before it not evolves, terrestrializes. I could also run Focus Blast to hit those 3. So it kind of allows me to bring either special or physical Torn. Not sure exactly what I'm going to do yet because it is just on the paste for now. I would say Galarian Slowking does not look great in this matchup. It kind of struggles against that top 4, even like against the Stakataka. If I go into my damage calc here, which by the way, these are the three things you should have open. You should have open Showdown, obviously, to do your build. You should have the Prep Dock open, and you should have a Damage Calc open. So Galarian Slowking, that's not the right Slowking. Slowking Galar into Stakataka. We're gonna make this Brave Nature with 0 speed. I'll keep the Life Orb on that thing for now. Gyro Ball. And then we'll do Terra Steel. So Terra Steel Gyro Ball does 2-shot me. And that's not to mention Earthquake also does a lot. This is with Life Orb, by the way. But you could make this a defensive Slowking. Now Gyro Ball's not 2-shotting you. Or 2-shotting. And this is the slowest. That is not the slowest. I think it's what, Relaxed Nature? That's the slowest. Yeah, that's the slow nature. So basically, if you want to run G-King to kind of help deal with Stakataka, you could. It's still going to get demolished by 2 EQs. Even without a Life Orb, it still gets demolished by 2 EQs. And you're not really doing much back. Because I believe Fire Blast just is not doing, like, anything. If you wanted to go, like, less defensive and you wanted to go with, like, a special attacking build, like, you're still not one-shotting this anyways. So I would probably opt to leave G-King behind. It does deal with Florges. It does deal with these bottom 5+ Inteleon pretty okay. So it's not going to be completely off the table, and it should be able to tank a hit from Zoroark if it needs to. However, because of these, like, top 5, kinda, like, I would kind of opt to probably not bring G-King. So we're going to skip over G-King. Ursaluna, though, Ursaluna's a mon that does well in, like, most every matchup. This mon actually does pretty well into the top 5. It's pretty physically defensive, even if you're not investing in physical defense. So if you wanted to do that, Ursaluna, yeah, it is physically tanky, and this is also not supposed to be fast. So it can actually tank a hit from Gyro Ball, unless this is Life Orb, I suppose, but it probably shouldn't be, like, super defensive, and Headlong Rush with Guts still does OHKO it. The Stakataka. Another thing to consider is Terra Inteleon. However, Inteleon's a little bit easier to prep for because, in a sense, it's kind of just, it clicks Torrent, like Hydro Pump, a lot of the time. And yes, Terra Water is very, very concerning for this team, but we do have mons that are faster than it and mons that can kind of outspeed kill it. So if I'm gonna be truthfully honest, yeah, Torn is gonna be coming. I think Ursaluna will be coming too. And I should, actually, before I completely dismiss Galarian Slowking, I should consider if Arctozolt is good in this matchup. And I actually think Arctozolt has a decent spot in this matchup. It outspeeds everything under the Slush Rush. So if I want to calc Inteleon, because it's the fastest mon, and then go calc Arctozolt, you're going to want to see how in the snow how much I need to outspeed Inteleon without Scarf, because you're not really going to outspeed too many Scarfs anyways. So I need 374 for Arctozolt. And I guess it's something that, like, Torn could do as well. I could do Snowscape or Hail. Apparently I don't get Hail, but you do get Snowscape. Is this the right format? Yeah, this is NetDex Draft. Okay. That's Arctovish. Arctozolt. Okay, I was just making sure that Torn like just did not get Hail. I thought there was like some change in the format and it kind of spooked me slightly. So Arctozolt is something to consider. I'll put it on that paste for now. Something else to note with this team specifically is Enamorus's matchup. It does wall both of Roy Moon Stabs as well as King Gambit Sucker Punch. And it also gets a lot of coverage to hit things that would resist Moonblast. Notably, Quillfish and Stack Attack would be the Moonblast switch-ins against Enamorus. And yes, I am all over the place for now, but I am just kind of overall checking the viability of each mon in this matchup. I think next one I'm going to talk about is Aloe, but for now I'm going to calc Enam and how well it does in this matchup. So Florges would be like the thing it has to work around the most. And I'd say because Florges isn't much of a Fizz-Def tank, something that I would consider doing with Enam in this matchup is actually doing a Jolly set with contrary superpower with Play Rough. Because I'm still hitting everything, and if Quillfish comes in to intimidate me, then it's giving me another attack boost. So that's something as well to consider. Enamorus. Make this contrary, and then yeah, you go superpower, you go Play Rough to hit everything. And also superpower is just nice because it does end up hitting King Gambit 4 times effectively, which is nice to do that. And I would assume Zora Kisui is not going to want to switch in on a superpower because it's not going to expect the first superpower usually. That's pretty tough to predict, is Enam being contrary here, because as you can see, a Jolly Play Rough is just going to do that much percent to it. And then also, I think Timid Moonblast is just killing it pretty much, or it has that role to kill it. So you have to be careful. With Enam, you're going to want to outspeed that Landorus, which should be, with Enam, you should be able to do that 216, make the plus there. Yeah, that does outspeed Landorus. I think Landorus hits that 331. And for now, I'm going to put max attack, but you could probably end up lowering it later. I'm just going to put max attack just to be a little bit, just to be safe for now, and then like 40 EVs and HP. Because I don't really hit Quillfish, I do want to see if I get a Psychic move to hit it. I do get Zen Headbutt. So that should be pretty cool for Quillfish, because with Quillfish, it's gonna, you probably intimidate me. Which, if I click superpower into it, I should be at +2 here, and then a +1 in defense. And if I'm Zen Headbutt, doesn't kill it exactly. This should be a +1. But the Quillfish can't really do too much back. So I'd actually think if he's coming in on Intimidate to superpower me, or on my superpower, he's gonna come in, he's gonna take 21%, and then that 21 into this +2 Zen Headbutt pretty much KOs most of the time, because unless I low roll both times, the Quillfish is going to die to a superpower into a Zen Headbutt. So I think that's perfectly fine the way I'm building the Enam right now. So that's something nice to know. Does this thing get superpower? I don't. Oh, it does. It does get super. Oh, no. I'm trying to think of not superpower. Like, do you get Hammer Arm? You don't get Hammer Arm. There's something about Enam where I was wondering if it had like a speed lowering move, but I don't think it does. If I wanted, I guess, a move to increase its speed for a little bit, I could do Tailwind. However, I'm going to keep this slot vacant for now, as well as its item. There are some rockers in this matchup, notably Stakataka and King Gambit, and as I've said before, if Stakataka's coming, it's pretty much going to be spamming Gyro Ball plus Stone Edge or EQ the entire time. Probably Stone Edge to hit the Ogre Pawn super effectively. But something else about Stakataka is it really does not touch Alomomola, so I'd actually expect it to be a toxic set with a defensive-ish Terra. Probably like a Terra Steel. Because it would be able to click Trick Room and then also outspeed Ursaluna with that Trick Room anyways. And then Gyro Ball. You click Gyro Ball a bunch of times, but you could also click Toxic to hit the Aloe. And the only way to heal Aloe with this team is through Healing Wish Enam, I believe. Yeah. I was going to say Aloe also gets Healing Wish, but you're not really going to Healing Wish yourself. Which you can't really do that. So, yeah. I think this Enam, for now, I think the Enam is going to be left alone. The Ursaluna, though, will be Flame Orb, because I'm seeing that, like, Guts Facade plus Earthquake just kills about everything. Except for Stakataka, but for now that's kind of besides the point. So Quillfish, yeah, it's going to die to it actually doesn't die to Earthquake all the time. So you could go Headlong Rush, which is fine. Headlong Rush is fine. I'm gonna make this That's also a little bit of a dilemma. Do you want Ursaluna to outspeed King Gambit or Lurantis? Or should I go into that Trick Room? I think you go for outspeeding King Gambit because Stakataka will be slower than you in its own Trick Room, and it'll be setting Trick Room for itself. So I think it's best to just outspeed King Gambit. So what I like to do, I'm going to make this Adamant Max Attack for now. Because for the most part, I really don't have time to, like, go through all these things and be like, oh, I only need, like, 136 attack to kill something. For now, I'm just going to put Max Attack on things. And yes, Facade. That's pretty much all I can do with Ursaluna for now. I could also put some stuff in HP. I like to make my HP numbers even for the most part, but there's some tutorials on the internet as to when you should make your HP even or odd. With Enam, you want to make this odd because you want to be able to come in on rocks a certain amount of time. I think you want your HP divisible by 4, but plus 1, I believe. So you want to do that, and then I would just do like something like that. Or if you're trying to increase your defense more specifically, this doesn't really make too much of a difference, but you could do that. I'm going to delete the Arctozolt for now. We'll see if I come back to Arctozolt later, because I do see value in the Arctozolt this matchup. It does get Low Kick to hit King Gambit and Roaring Moon. It also gets Blizzard to hit Roaring Moon, and Freeze Dry or Bolt Beak to hit these guys. Bolt Beak hits pretty much everything very hard. I'd have to clear Amulet on that Quillfish probably. If I want to be physical. I think physical is the best set here because I am going to be able to Bolt Beak everything, and then also like Icicle Spear / Crash, and then Low Kick the 2 resists. So that's good to know. if I decide to bring the Arctozolt, which I could also bring Arctozolt with manual Hail. In that decks you can run Hail and Snowscape, so you can switch between the two, but in Paleo decks you can't run Hail. It's just the fact that their Arctozolt isn't in Scarlet and Violet, so it never actually got Snowscape. It has to run Hail, but yeah, that's just something worth noting there. So I think I have a decent defensive or offensive profile, as well as like somewhat of a good defense. So next mon I'd put on this is probably Aloe. And you're always going to swap that to regen. You always want to run probably Guts on Ursaluna. Unless you're like an Assault Vest Bulletproof set, or even like there might be like a niche scenario for Unnerve. Making sure your abilities are correct is always just nice to have. Torrent can only run regen. Even though it's like other form has 2 abilities, but whatever. But yeah, as I said, Aloe is a really good wall into the Stakataka. Yeah, as you can see, Stakataka really cannot do much unless it's like Terra Rock, Life Orb, Stone Edge being able to 2-shot me. But because of the way I think he's going to build with more of like that Gyro Ball, I would probably not believe that Life Orb, Terra Rock, Stone Edge is coming. So I'd probably opt to do not that. If he's not Life Orb, Stone Edge doesn't really do that much. If I wanted it to just like 2-shot me, I would do something like this. It can't really 2-shot me either way. Something that I think you should do with Aloe instead of with HP, because it has so much HP, is just run the defense and then run special defense like this. That is how I'd personally run Aloe. You actually get more bulk this way just running it like this. And with that said, I want to see if Inteleon can do much. Terra Water Hydro Pump cannot 2-shot me, which is perfect. Aloe can actually switch in on Inteleon, which is good to know. Something that I could do with Aloe is actually run Assault Vest. We'll actually see if I end up doing that, but I think my idea behind Assault Vest is it can handle Inteleon a lot better, as well as Zora, Kisui, and Landorus. Yeah. Assault Vest will be able to handle Landorus. It can switch in once always. However, I think it might just be best to be like Wish, Protect, Flip Turn with probably Leftovers. Or honestly, I could run like a Citrus if I wanted to, but I think for now it would be like Leftovers. This doesn't allow me to handle Landorus much better, but it does handle Inteleon, which I think is good to have. This should also be like 4, not 8. Yeah, that's fine. Then you want that flip turn just to pivot out. Something else I could do, I think Rocky Helmet is a decent item for this too. Or I could do Lumberry if I want to heal like Toxic off. Last move, I think I can come back to it, but I think Play Rough is the move I'd run. It's not really going to be able to hit, like, it probably won't kill Roaring Moon, if I had to guess. Actually, let's see if it does. Does Play Rough kill you? Roaring Moon. It does not KO him. But even with Booster Attack, Acro and Crunch are not 2-shotting me. So I'm not, like, super scared of it. Being able to chip Roaring Moon will be probably pretty easy, if I had to guess. This team does not have a lot of priority. And that's something I said I valued, but not every team is going to have good priority, to be honest. So you'll probably be fine without too much priority. Alright, so now our Aloe set is done. Our Enamorous and our Ursaluna set are pretty much done. I'd actually see if there's anything that you would run on Ursaluna to hit Zoro. So the next thing with Ursaluna to do actually is I see a ghost type and I see prime opportunity for him to throw something off by running like an air balloon. If they want to disguise Zoro as like King Gambit with an air balloon, or even if they want to run an air balloon on King Gambit, because King Gambit could also do that too. I'd also then run Drain Punch and Crunch just to hit Zoro plus King Gambit. So if they want to air balloon, my stabs aren't going to hit them very effectively. But if I want to Drain Punch or Crunch and catch them, I could. Most likely you'll click Crunch first and then Drain Punch. And the idea behind the 20 speed is just in case they run like some speed on like King Gambit, like just to outspeed like Ursaluna, then I would probably do that. They're probably not going to go for Arctozolt in the Hail, so I wouldn't think they'd bother with Arctozolt, but maybe they do, and if they do, good for them. But I also see the value in bulk after seeing the calcs with Stack Attack Gyro Ball earlier. So I preferred running like some HP, and I'd actually probably run like a little bit of defense instead. That's probably the Ursaluna spread I'd go for. Enam, I think it clicks Play Rough Superpower, Play Rough Superpower, Play Rough, Play Rough, Play Rough, Play Rough, Zen Headbutt, Play Rough. So the thing I think I'd do with Enam is either Substitute, or I would run... You get Taunt. You also get Taunt. I don't know if I'd click Taunt with Enam, but I could. Healing Wish is fine as well. You could do that. Or you could run Substitute, which allows you to stall out Trick Room turns. If they go like hard Stack Attack on you, I would imagine they click like Trick Room. And something I'd probably do with Enam is either Leftovers or like Boots, if you're gonna do like a subset. So now you could do like sub Leftovers, and then that's fine. So our Enam set is done, our Ursaluna set is done, our Aloe set is done. I'd probably next consider what to do with Torn. Because for now, Torn is just there because it outspeeds everything. And I think with this set, I have two Mons that kind of deal with Florges pretty well. And by dealing with Florges, I kind of mean like they can do a lot of damage to Florges and doesn't allow them to really get in for free. And I have a Wish Passer into like Enam in case Enam has to take like a big hit. And I'd actually consider the fact that Florges is not good in this matchup. There are so many physical attackers on this team. It deals with High Dragon pretty okay, but it also has to worry about High Dragon just being Terra. Like Terra Poison, Terra Blast, or like Terra Poison Berry Belch set. So I really don't think Florges is that good in this matchup. And that's something also to see when you're building your teams, is seeing who's not good into you and who is good into you. And I think seeing that Florges is not good into me is very good intuition, because I have so many Mons that deal with Florges that if I want to run a special attacker like High Dragon, then I should be fine to do that. But the reason I went physical with Enam is because he has a lot of physical attackers himself. And I saw the opportunity to win with the Intimidate boosting Contrary. So I kind of like that idea. So Torn, I should be able to run Special pretty easily and not have to worry too much about Floor just walling it. I would run Icy Wind to hit Landorus. And then I would probably run Focus Blast to hit these three. I don't know if you can see my mouse very well, but that's what I would do. And then if you're worried about like rocks going up, you could run Defog. I could also run U-Turn just to pivot out, but I think I'm just going to run Defog. And then run Boots. And now something to note with Torn. Actually, I don't think I want to run Boots. I think I actually want to run Expert Belt. So if I'm remembering correctly, Landorus into an Icy Wind. If I'm like max special attack. Yeah, it is not really taking too much from Icy Wind. Or it wasn't killing unless I'm Expert Belt. I could also run like Life Orb. And Life Orb is a decent set too, but I think Expert Belt. Actually, I think probably Life Orb. I like offensive Torn a lot. And something about this team is very offensive. So the best way to win against a team like this is to keep up offense. And just try to chip through the walls the best you can. So I would actually run Life Orb in this matchup and probably do something like that. Could still run Defog, that's fine. I have regen, so coming in on rocks and then taking a hit with Life Orb isn't a big deal because I could always just pivot. Even if it's into like Aloe, that's not a big deal. So that's what I do with Torn. But yeah, next mon I consider. I could look at webs. I could see if this is a webs matchup. I see that Florges is not good in this matchup. And Florges is the best removal. They also have a Contrary mon themselves, but do I think Lurantis is good in this matchup? Probably not. Not into a Tornadus, because I don't think Lurantis can really touch Torn, and also not just kind of die to like a Bleak Wind. Rotom-Mow also has removal. I actually think Rotom-Mow is okay in this matchup. It has Wisp to hit some of my physical attackers, or Toxic, or even just kind of like it can outspeed Ursaluna and threaten a KO with Leaf Storm. It's not the best into like Ogerpon or like Arctozolt or probably even like Tinkaton or Ariados. I would also imagine that a superpower into a player off kills it. So I'm not scared of Rotom-Mow. It's not like impossible for it to come. It would theoretically probably do good into a Dragon Dance Terra Hydreigon. So that's something worth noting. And then the other defogger on this team, or the other removal, is Lurantis and Landorus. I could see him running defog Landorus because my rock setter is Tinkaton. Ursaluna doesn't get rocks. T-Spikes, like Glaring Slowking gets threatened out by the T-Spikes. Hydreigon also gets rocks itself, and then I think Ogerpon gets spikes, and then I have Sticky Web with Ariados, and I think Landorus kind of scares all of them out. So I could see Landorus coming. It really only needs like Rock Slide, Earth Power in this matchup anyways. So I could see him slotting Defog. But either way, I don't think I'm too scared of it. So yeah, I think Life Orb Torn is the best. Now I have to think about like the last 2 months I want to bring I think Tinkaton should probably come. I think Tinkaton is a supreme like air balloon mon here. Um, it doesn't get EQ'd or earth powered by Lando or Roaring Moon, and it could stay in on a Zoroark. So I think what I do with Tinkaton, I think Tinkaton is a lead in this matchup. Do I like Mold Breaker? Or do I like Own Tempo? I think not being intimidated is nice by Quillfish if I felt like doing more damage to Quillfish. But I think this is like an Air Balloon Mon with Knockoff as a lead. So the idea behind this is it kind of deals with all of these Mons as a lead. It can also... I could get up rocks on my own. I like the idea of clicking Gigaton Hammer in this matchup. Does Tinkaton... How much does Tinkaton do? That's Tinkatink. Tink a ton. How much does Tinkaton do to Roaring Moon? Gigaton Hammer does a lot without investment. You probably want Play Rough. Play Rough does kill Roaring Moon no matter what. And it stops him from clicking Dragon Dance into me, so this could be a good Roaring Moon check, which could offer me to allow Aloe to do something else other than Play Rough as well. We'll have to see about that. But I also like the idea of either of these Mons can deal with Roaring Moon if it switches in. Because Roaring Moon, I think, could set up on Torn, and if Torn misses a Focus Blast or an Icy Wind, I could be in big trouble. But I'm actually seeing a situation where Roaring Moon does not set up on any of these guys. So I don't actually think I need Play Rough. It doesn't want to stay in on a Tinkaton and set up on it anyways. So I actually think that Mono Gigaton is okay. And I could opt to run a fighting move instead. The only fighting moves it gets are Brick Break and Rock Smash. I would imagine Brick Break isn't really doing that much to King Gambit, if I guess. But I could make a 2-shot. I actually think I run Pickpocket on this guy as well. The idea behind Pickpocket is I run the air balloon, they pop it, and then I steal their item because they pop my balloon. I believe that's how that works. If it isn't how that works, please let me know. But I think that's how that works. So yeah, I think I run Pickpocket. I don't really see any situation for me to run Mold Breaker anyways. Unless I wanted to lower Lurantis' stats with the move, but I don't really see that being a thing. So I like this idea here that I have going on. I can take the Life Orb from Landorus, or I can force him... Actually, I think if he leads with like Landorus, I would be taking his Life Orb either way. If it wants to like hard switch out, that's fine. If it wants to U-turn out, he's popping my balloon and I'm taking his Life Orb. Which then in turn allows Aloe to wall him. Unless he's like Plot. But even if he's Plot, I have Mons that are faster that can deal with it. Like Torn, who would no longer be dying to like a Rock Slide. So I like this Tinkaton a lot. Gigaton, Brick Break, Knockoff. Last move, I would probably put... What would I put? I could put Ice Hammer if I want to just like kill Landorus, but I don't think I need Ice Hammer. I could get up rocks myself. I could actually run Play Rough if I want to kill like Gallade. Because Gigaton doesn't knock it out. Play Rough. Player F doesn't knock it out entirely either. Or I could run like Thunder Wave just to paralyze things and annoy them. I like T-Wave quite a bit. It allows other things to check Inteleon. And I don't think I'm running a lot of speed. Yeah, I'm not running like speed on Tinkaton in this matchup. I'm not really scared of anything slower than this, except for Gallade potentially, which isn't like super fast. I'd be running 144. But is Gallade gonna run max speed? Not into like an Aloe. It would be outspeeding with like agility into Torn. Which it doesn't need like any speed to do that. Yeah, if it wanted to run agility to beat Torn, it does not need any speed. I'd actually maybe see if he wants to outspeed like Scarf Hydreigon. That's what I would see him doing. So +1 speed Hydreigon hits 486. He would need He need 244 base speed to outrun me. This is what I'd run on Tinkaton, 84 speed. Which allows me to run kind of specially defensive, which is what I want. Something like that. Or actually, I needed that, like, I think it was 144 that I needed to kill King Gambit. This is probably what I'd run. Now does, how much does Inteleon do? Doesn't KO me with Specs Hydro Pump. He has that chance to miss as well. So being able to knock off is nice. If that's what he has to do, is go into Inteleon. But it also, like, Inteleon would have to take like a T-Wave into like a knockoff. That would just kind of suck for Inteleon. So even though Tinkaton might not kill something in this matchup, it annoys at least something. And that's what I think is really nice about it in this matchup. Alright, so now that I have that, I'm between Ogerpon and Hydreigon. Arctozolt and Galarian Slowking are pretty much a hard no. And I think Ariados is just kind of meh. I think Hydreigon is the best bring. And I think with Hydreigon, this is like probably a Terra Poison matchup. Levitate Terra Poison is just really good anyways, so I'm stopping things from clicking EQ. I could also go Terra Steel. Terra Steel I think actually is probably better. Yeah, Terra Steel is better. Because if Gallade is gonna be like agility something, it might have Psycho Cut anyways. Actually, I don't think he'd be Psycho Cut in this matchup unless he's predicting Terra Poison. He'd be like Night Slash Sacred Sword. Maybe Psycho Cut to hit Enam. But it also gets like Poison Jab for that. So maybe Terra Poison is just better. Yeah. So with Hydreigon, it can also kind of handle stuff like Landorus, Ruemoon, King Gambit, Zoroark without Terra, probably. So it's worth considering how can I win with Hydreigon, because Hydreigon, in theory, would be my win con. Now, I could run Dragon Dance. Quillfish would be a little bit annoying for it, but if I'm Terra Poison, I can just kind of keep clicking Dragon Dance on it. Quillfish really can't do anything to High Dragon if it's Dragon Dancing. And I really don't need Clear Amulet in that case. I would definitely run Yeah, I'd probably run Earthquake. And it doesn't get knockoff. The best dark move it gets is Crunch, I believe. Yeah, it gets Crunch or Throat Chop. None of these guys are going to be, like, singing at me. Oh, actually, probably Throat Chop. That way I don't get destroyed by, like, Hyper Voice. If he wants to, like, lock into Hyper Voice, then I could Throat Chop him. If he's, like, Sash, I think Throat Chop is the best play because then Hyper Voice just doesn't work. Most people will probably be expecting a Crunch to lower, like, defense for Stack Attacka. But this team kind of helps deal with Stack Attacka pretty well, with chipping it down for High Dragon to win. So yeah, I'd probably run, like, Throat Chop EQ. I could Terra Blast for the Florges, but I don't think I need to. I could also consider a different Terra, but I think for now I like Poison the best because it can kind of set up on Quillfish. And it's not very weak to everything else. Landers does get Psychic, but I wouldn't expect him to run Psychic in this matchup because other than hitting Ariados super effectively, he doesn't really have a reason to run Psychic. I could probably run like Terra Water as well for Inteleon. And that could open the door for different ideas. Actually, I think I like Terra Water. I like Terra Water and maybe Covert Cloak. So now the idea is that High Dragon can set up on Quillfish still. I can Roost on Quillfish unless he's toxic. He's not going to be able to Barrage Poison me because I'm Cloak, and I can just keep clicking Roost and Dragon Dance. And again, if he's like Agility Gallade, +1 High Dragon should be able to like kind of knock him out. So I'm not super worried about this. I can run pretty bulky. This is probably what I'd run. Like a bulky-ish High Dragon. Because I can afford to do that. I think this is the paste. Do I have everything on here? Torn has 4 moves. It has EVs. Ursaluna has everything. And also, the reason I felt like going water on High Dragon, I guess I could do grass as well. I didn't like grass into Quillfish as much, but the reason I went water is for Inteleon. So I can kind of set up on Inteleon if I wanted to, and if I was grass, Inteleon could Ice Beam me and just kill me. So I felt like going water because it helped give me something else for Inteleon. And then obviously if I Dragon Dance, I'll be faster than it, I believe. Right. Oh, actually, I'm not faster than Inteleon. Okay. I think this should be fast enough though. 192 and then 248 speed. No, apparently not. That should be faster. You just want to make sure you outspeed the things that you have to outspeed, which for me would be Timid Inteleon at +1. That's what you want. And yeah, that's how I would build for a game. You kind of see what your speed ties are, what Mons can kind of stay in and threaten things at most points of the game. What Mon kind of helps deal with like the biggest threats. which for me that would have been the Alamomola. It can kind of deal with everything for a little bit. Tinkaton is a good lead because it disrupts something. Hydreigon's a decent sweeper. Enam is also a decent sweeper, so like I like having the Hydreigon and the Enam because they can both kind of sweep, or they could break for each other and then sweep. And then we have just like that kind of clicks buttons when you're in a bad spot, or like doesn't allow you to get into a bad spot, and also just kind of pivoting around with like Torn plus Aloe is pretty decent. Now is Ogerpon good in this matchup? I think Ogerpon's decent in this matchup. I could opt to bring Ogerpon over Enam if I wanted to. And like that's the thing, is you can find other ways to win this game. If I wanted to bring Ogerpon over Enam, I think that's fine. I just kind of opted to go Enam because I think Enam was a little bit easier to set up with. But if you also just want something to like speed tie that Zoroark, Ogerpon is a completely fine choice. It also gets play rough for Roaring Moon. So I think it's valid to want to bring Ogerpon over Enam. But I just opted to go with Enam because I think Enam takes advantage of Quillfish a little bit better, and thus makes it a little bit harder to set up on. And it gets stuff like Sub, just to kind of disrupt things. It's probably only going to get like one kill, which is fine. If it forces in like Inteleon, then I can set up with like Hydreigon, or I can steal Inteleon's choice specs with Tinkaton, or just go like hard Aloe and just kind of flip turn, wish flip turn into Hydreigon or something if I have to. So I like that a lot. However, we're not done with this video yet. I think the next thing I want to look at is how to make the best of a bad matchup. And instead of building an entire team, I actually took a really good example from Sam Key, who lost this game in the main season, but made up for it in playoffs by winning in playoffs. So yeah, spoiler alert, he does win this matchup. And I'll explain why in a second this is a bad matchup. I have this paste open. Yeah, you guys should be able to see it. So here's a matchup where I think it almost looks impossible to win. Sam Key is going into Mega Scissor with no fire types and a lot of mons that are very weak to Bullet Punch, plus just getting pivoted around on. He has a lot of like bug weak mons as well, and then just Bullet Punch kind of threatens everything. Gouging Fire also just kind of sets up on everything if it wants to, except for Diancie. But Gouge gets, I believe, Iron Head to hit Diancie. And so it can just kind of click Heat Crash Iron Head into everything. And Sam can't really do too much about it, because if he wants to click T-Wave with Klefki, Jaden can just go into Landorus and then click like Gravity and spam Earth Power on everything. Thunderous looks like it would get walled by Nidoqueen, but it gets Psychic to hit Nidoqueen. Even like Uxie kind of just sits there on like most things and doesn't really care too much. I think Iron Jugulis has a decent matchup. But Iron Jugulis is a type of mon, like it's only going to be able to kill like one thing. Samkey doesn't have a Tapu Koko to get up Quark Drive speed, so you can't do like Quark Drive speed into like Meteor Beam sweeps, especially because Empoleon is right there, and Empoleon also just kind of walls the crap out of it. Even with like Earth Power, Empoleon's not really going to care too much about Earth Power. Floette Eternal is pretty especially defensive as well. That's something about this matchup I like too, is that there's a Floette Eternal in this matchup, and you could, it's an interesting mon. So Samkey just has a really bad matchup. And he does have some tools, but he has something that can switch into pretty much everything. Jaden even has Ursaring to deal with the Spectre, because otherwise I think Spectre has a really good matchup. but it doesn't. It has to kind of work for those KOs. So this is what Sam's build is. Now, Kyurem is a mon that gets walled by Scissor. Every time. Unless you are Sunny Day Weather Ball, you get walled by Scissor. And if you are Sunny Day Weather Ball, that's like 2 turns of setup into a mon that can just kind of bullet punch 2-shot you. But what Sam offered, or what he opted to do, was actually go with Fling Flame Orb Kyurem as a lead. And lead this into Scissor. Scissor doesn't OHKO with bullet punch, so what you can do is just lead Fling. Now Scissor's burned, and now you can kind of roost with Kyurem, but he opted to not go with roost. I guess he opted to, he opted to go with a special Kyurem, where I guess maybe he thought he would sack like Fortress or something and then go Kyurem, and then fling the Flame Orb at Scissor. Especially, but he had some game plan here. Maybe he just thought he'd lead Kyurem and then fling. And then even if he did have to get burned by his own Flame Orb, then he at least was just running special moves, which I think is fine. Did he run max speed? He ran max speed for Yuxi. Anyways, I think what he did was fine. He has a way to kind of deal with Scissor that Scissor does a lot and everything, but if Scissor's burnt, now a lot of his mons can kind of sit there and punish Scissor. And Scissor can't do too much about it unless it's like SD. But he has to work to kill mons with Scissor if he flings the Flame Orb at it. Quack, he opted to run a Bulk Up Roost Aqua Step close combat set. He saw that situation where close combat helps kind of deal with Empoleon, and then with Splash Plate, he can kind of do a lot more damage into like Scissor and Gouging Fire without lowering his defenses. So he can click Bulk Up and then Aqua Step, and because of the Splash Plate boosting his damage, he can kind of 1v1 stuff now. And he also has Roost. So I think it's a good way to help deal with the Gouging Fire. I think I might have went like Protective Pads so that Burning Bulwark doesn't just burn you. Unless that's not how Burning Bulwark works, but I'm pretty sure that's how that works. But this was a good Quack set, and he ran pretty bulky. He realized that he didn't need a lot of attack investment to win. He just needed some bulk to be able to set up on his physical attackers. And then after an Aqua Step, I would assume he outsped like Landorus. Or Thundurus probably. Because Quack isn't like super slow, and then like Thundurus and Landorus usually aren't like Scarf. So I guess he figured he could afford a lot of bulk. This Fortress set is a Stealth Rocker with Ice Spinner, Heavy Slam, Volt Switch. Don't know why he is Heavy Slam. I guess Heavy Slam helps deal with the Floette, but I would also assume that Gyro Ball would have done enough, but maybe Fortress is heavier than I thought it was. I probably would have run like Gyro Ball. But he's just kind of a slow Volt Switcher, which helps get in his threats like Quack at the end. Or the Booster Energy Iron Jugulis, which he is Booster Energy with Flamethrower, Air Slash Dark Pulse Earth Power. So he has options to hit everything except the Landorus, but I think 2 Dark Pulses would kind of kill it, and I don't think Landorus can kill Jug, because Jug is like surprisingly bulky. Jug also gets Flash Cannon. Oh wait, no, the Diancee's on this side. I'm stupid. He doesn't need the Flash Cannon. He kind of does get walled out by the Floette, I think. But the purpose of Jugulis is just to chip stuff down, I think. For his other mons. We didn't actually end up bringing Spectre, huh? I think Sam expected him to bring Ursaring. And Ursaring is, I think, the best counter, one of the best counters to Spectre, because Spectre, like, it can click a Wisp, but then you've boosted Ursaring's Guts, and Guts Ursaring is now about to claim a Mon every time it comes in on Spectre. So I think opting to not bring Spectre is fine. Especially into like a Scarf like Greninja or like a Spadef Empoleon flip turning around. I think that's fine to not bring Spectre. The Nidoqueen is sub EP Flamethrower Ice Beam with like a modest nature. So he's not actually like Life Orb. He instead decided to go with a more bulky but modest set with sub leftovers, because he thinks he can sub on stuff like Thundurus and even like Scissor. If Scissor's scared of like Flamethrower, you get off the sub and then now he can kind of click buttons. Uxie doesn't really have good healing, although Uxie does have Psychic Noise. Jugulis is a decent check to Uxie, or even the Mesprit. And the Mesprit is weakness policy, so if he thinks he's going to switch in on like a Psychic Noise, and then Uxie is going to U-turn out on the Mesprit, now you've activated Mesprit's weakness policy, and now Mesprit has coverage that kills a lot of Mons and helps deal with a lot of Mons as well. Levitate's really nice for the Landorus and stuff like that. So all this matchup looks really bad on the surface. Sam has a lot of tech that can help to deal with this other team. And then because of that, he was able to take the victory because he had... I think he also had decent luck on his side, but he turned a matchup that looked impossible, even to like everyone else that was looking at this matchup, thinking this matchup was impossible, and turn it into a matchup where he was able to show off some cool techs, and also he was able to deal with things that otherwise kind of walled him out, like the Mega Scissor. A lot of these Mons were kind of built to help deal with Mega Scissor. He even originally had like a natural good fire on Fortress to deal with Scissor, but he decided to just kind of Volt Switch and then kind of deal with Scissor in its own way. And I think that's fine. You have Nidoqueen that can always switch in once, or Jugulis, and then we got the Bulk Up on this thing, as well as Fling Flame Orb. So most of his team just kind of dealt with Scissor in its own way, even though this team doesn't really have a lot of fire coverage and a lot of firepower to deal with Scissor. Or even like a Sweeper Gouge set, but Sam was able to pull it out. And I think that's exactly what you should do when you're in a bad situation, is you should find some way to deal with the Mon that you otherwise lose to the most, and then just build a team around not losing to the scary threats. Like if you're scared of like Nasty Plot Landorus, you can bring a team that doesn't allow Landorus to even click Nasty Plot. You can run an Air Balloon on Klefki and click Toxic Protect or something and then wear it down, because it also has to click a button into you before it can even click Earth Power. You know, stuff like that. You can just kind of find techs that deal with things that you'd be scared of. And while it's hard to switch in on these things, now you still have an advantage because you are able to deal with something no matter what you're doing. Nidoqueen can't really switch in on Landorus, but Landorus is in trouble because it can't switch into Nidoqueen. If it's behind a sub, then Nidoqueen is winning because it has Ice Beam to hit it. And yeah, I think that's just a perfect example of how to make the best of a bad matchup. And I figured I'd add it at the end of this video. But yeah, I think I covered everything that I wanted to in this video. I got to make my point a little bit about like type spam that I kind of missed in the last video. And I showed you guys how to build for a matchup, at least with my philosophy. And I did also say that there's other ways I could have built for this. I could have opted to go more like defensive Torn. I could have opted to bring Ogerpon. I could have opted to bring Ogerpon probably over like Tinkaton or like Hydreigon too, or even Ursaluna. Um, but that's the thing is you can always find certain mons that do well in certain matchups, and you could preserve text for like playoffs too. If that's what you want to do. And yeah, in the next video, I think I'll probably start making videos about how to use like specific mons, um, or like more tier lists for my other playlist about like draft league discussions, and like theory crafting. But I also kind of want to bring a series about like how to build around specific mons or how to use specific mons in the draft format, what they can do, um, how they can beat their specific checks. I think the first one I'm gonna want to talk about, I want to talk about Ursaluna like really bad because I think Ursaluna is very it's kind of overrated in some aspects, but it's very underrated in other aspects. I think there's just a lot more to Ursaluna that people aren't looking at currently, and I think it has potential um, for a lot of people. And yeah, if you like the video, please like, subscribe. There's going to be more where that's coming. If you have any questions, feel free to leave some questions. I'll try to answer them. This video is an hour and a half long. I'm sorry, an hour and like 6 minutes long. So I'm sorry if I kind of slurred a little bit, but I knew this video was going to be long, and I just want to show like my draft or my like build strategies. It is my own philosophy, and other people will find their own philosophies. I think people like some people will opt to bring like Galarian Slowking and Arctozolt in this matchup. I saw a different out here. But it's just showing like you can build in so many ways. I think all 10 of these mons are viable in this matchup, which is not always the case, and I wasn't really intending for that to happen, but it just kind of does, and you know, that's how the cookie crumbles, I guess. And yeah, I will see you guys next week. Thank you for watching.